Well, here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. My name is Zach Stoffer, and this is the. Now, some of you may be wondering, what is this all even about? Why am I doing this? What is going to be on this podcast? Let me break it down for you. But basically, this podcast to me is all about my belief that we all have stories. We all have different life experiences, journeys, and lessons that we've learned from all of our lives. I feel like there's value in people sharing their journeys, their stories, their perspectives, because, maybe something I have to say helps someone else feel a little less alone. Or maybe my path for a certain thing I experienced in my life helps someone else through something similar in theirs. The principle here is that, again, we all have stories, we all have experiences, and I want to share those. Ultimately, the goal for this podcast to me is to have as many people on here as I can. So if you have a unique story, if you have a really hard life lesson that you've learned, or if you just have anything valuable that you feel you need to share in some sense or any way, please let me know. A big part of this podcast is I want to interview people. Right now, I'm going to be doing some solo episodes because I don't have the exact setup uh, all together just yet. If you saw my little promo video, you know what I'm working with right now. It's not the best, but we make do with what we got. And but yeah, that's really the gist of this podcast. I feel like in my life, I have gone through so much. I have experienced things all the wrong ways. I have made so many mistakes. I've had so many trials and I've had so many difficult things, but I've overcome them all. And because of all of these things, one of my purposes is I feel like I have a story and I want to share it. And so hopefully as this podcast goes on, you get to know me a little bit more in the ways that you maybe don't. Or if I'm a complete stranger to you, then we get to know each other. Either way, I have so many stories to share. I have so many experiences that I hope I can help some of y'all through. And in some way, shape, or form, give myself some purpose for the crazy stuff that I've been through. Because let me tell you, it is almost limitless. For those who know me personally, they can personally attest. But with all of my wondrous little yapping, I want to get into, well, first of all, I want to say this episode is going to be a little bit shorter because I'm very spontaneously doing this. I kind of literally just decided this week that, you all know what, I'm going to stop procrastinating this podcast and I'm actually going to put it together and I'm going to do it. I'm going to finally do it. And this has been a long time coming. It's been in the works and I've had to jump through so many different hoops just to get to where I am right now. But I'm going to share a little bit of that story. But again, I just ask you to bear with me because I said this before, I'll say it again. I have no idea what I'm doing. But one thing that I can promise is each week something's going to be a little bit better. Whether it's the quality, the content, I maybe have a guest on here finally. Whatever it may be, I'm going to be doing my very best to make sure that this podcast is given my all. That I'm doing everything I can to hopefully achieve the goal of sharing stories and helping other people because that's just what I want to do. It's what I feel like my purpose is. All right. Second part of all my yapping aside, today's episode is going to be to keep building. And what do I mean by that? Well, I feel like a lot of times in our lives, we experience major setbacks, major roadblocks, very timely and difficult trials that sidetrack us from a pursuit or something that we're actively engaged in, that we're passionate about. For me, it's been this podcast. It's also been my book. A little bit of shameless advertising there. Um, so the point with me saying all of that and to have the message of this podcast be to keep building, when we have all of these challenges that we have to overcome, it is imperative that you push through them. There may come a point where you may think to yourself, at what point do you stop? At what point do you give up? At what point is maybe the universe or God or whatever you believe in telling you that this is just not for you? Well, I'm here to tell you to not listen to those voices. The voice of discouragement and self-doubt is something that we all go through in our lives, but something that I want to tell you and something that is so important to me is I want you to know that your life is in your hands. You maybe have heard that before, but I want you to really understand it. Your life is in your hands. You have every ability, power, and capability to make changes in your life. If your life sucks and you're just going to sit there and complain it sucks, then it's your fault. Now, there are circumstances that people may not be able to control. But what I'm talking about is the people who hate their job but go to it every day. The people who don't like the current state of their life but do nothing to change it. The message that I'm trying to say with this is that you have the ability to change your life. You just have to go and do. Now, I'm not saying go quit your job and blow up your life and nuke everything and then start a podcast and hope that it will be able to sustain you. Who said that? No, I'm just kidding. Bruh. But what I am trying to say is if you have something that you're passionate about, try to make something of it, be it a hobby, a side hustle, a career, even if possible. I think we are so full of life and passion. Why not try to do something with what gives you the most happiness, what you're most passionate about? For me, it's talking to other people, it's sharing stories, it's writing my book. But I can't stress this enough that life is too short to not keep going, to not push through, or to at least try. And that's something that I've had to learn recently, especially recently with my book, my podcast, and all these things. And I'll share lightly some stories, but I have been writing this for many, many years. My book. It's called If This Isn't Life, What Is? And it's in essence a culmination of my life's journey to finding myself in ways. Very rough, generalized breakdown of it. But I have rewritten it 3 times now. I just finished the third and final rewrite. I know it's the final one because it has everything in it that I've wanted it to have. As I finished it, this was maybe a few weeks ago now, I finished it on a Saturday or a Sunday. That Monday, I had something happen and I lost all my savings. 2 days after that, I was fired from my job. And those are not the things I want to focus on. They sucked. Trust me, it was hard. But to me, it was the timing of it. I'm like, okay, I just finished my book. I needed to hire an editor, which costs money. By some miracle, this is the first iteration of this book. I put together this whole thing and got a proof copy, and the newest version is not wanting to work with me. And so I decided I needed an editor, and then these things happened. And honestly, for a time I sat there, I was like, okay, I'm not supposed to write my book. I'm not supposed to publish it. This is the universe telling me that now is not the time. And so after that, I gave up. I stopped trying. I stopped putting effort into my book. And since I'm an unemployed bum with nothing to do, I'm like, okay, what venture could I pick up? What could I possibly try and do now that I have all of this free time? And so I was like, wait, I had a podcast I wanted to start. Let's start that. Well, half my equipment doesn't work when it literally did before. My entire setup has changed because I've moved. And on top of that, and I'm not saying this to take shots at anybody, but almost every single person that I have reached out to record an episode with the podcast has either ghosted me or just not responded. And my purpose in sharing those things for you is not to be like, oh, my life sucks, whatever. Crap happens. That's life. My purpose in sharing that to you is these are really difficult roadblocks that I've faced. But the point of this episode and the message that I'm trying to get across is to keep building. I'm so passionate about this book. This book, I could literally break down into tears and cry. It is my life's work. This is my life and my experiences translated into something that I hope to help other people with. This podcast is a further extension of that, where my purpose, I feel, is to help other people, and that's all I want to do here. And I finally sat there and I've thought to myself, okay, well, if I want to do these things, I have to do them. I sometimes dance between the line of I have to wait until I have this figured out and solved perfectly before I can do this. I have to wait until this is accomplished before this can get accomplished. Or I have to wait until my life is perfect before I can do something. But the reality, my friends, is your life is never going to be perfect. There is always going to be some seemingly perfectly timed roadblock. There's going to be some lightning strike that hurts a lot or is just really difficult or confusing to navigate. But in these trying times, you have to push forward. There's a quote in my book. I will not stop shamelessly advertising it. Whether this is an original quote or something I found and just remembered off of the internet, on the title page, I have "To live the life you've always wanted comes at the cost of the life you've always known." And I want to end with that. To live the life you've always wanted comes at the cost of the life you've always known. It may seem crazy that I'm starting a podcast and trying to publish a book with not much else going on in my life. Other people may be laughing at me. Other people may be judging me. There may be so many more roadblocks ahead, but I'm telling you right now, I'm going to keep pushing forward. I'm going to keep trying my best to fulfill what I feel my purpose is. And all of you can do the exact same. I'm no different than any of you. I'm not better. Some days it's a struggle for me to get out of bed. All right. And I think many of us might relate to that. But the bottom line is, if you want something in life, you ultimately are responsible for achieving it. Nobody's going to force you to achieve your goals. Nobody's going to pull you up out of bed and say, you need to keep going. That has to come from within. You have to be the one that decides, this is not the life I want. And I need to make changes. And I need to overcome adversity in order to accomplish what I really am meant for and want to do. So, my friends, chase after what sets your heart on fire. Find what makes you get out of bed in the morning. Look for those things that bring that light into your eye and fill your life with joy. Actively pursue them. This life is not meant for us to be miserable working these 9 to 5s and paying bills. That's a rat race that I found myself in recently, and it's been difficult but also freeing to be out of that for a moment, where there is more to life than just working and paying bills, although it may be so difficult to feel otherwise at times. That is why it is so important that you keep building. You keep pushing to accomplish and achieve things that make you happy, that fulfill you. To live the life you've always wanted, it comes at the cost of the life you've always known. There's going to be hard times. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be sacrifices. But if me starting this podcast from literally nothing and having no idea at all what I'm doing can show for y'all, is that anybody can accomplish anything. And it may not be pretty at first, but in time, I know this will get better. And I promise y'all that. So this episode, the very first episode of the It's So Over podcast, is very over. But don't worry, because next week we will be so very back. My name is Zach Stauffer. Thank you so much for listening. Have a blessed week and Godspeed.